Hey everyone. So in this video, we're going to talk about estimation questions. And when I say estimation, then these are the kind of questions which are more like brain teasers, where they ask you to find the number of golf ball that can fit into a car, or number of staircase that you might have to climb if you want to reach the top of Empire State, right? So what they're trying to see is not what the right answer is, but what a thought process is. And this is applicable to all the product management interviews. In any PM interview, the important thing to note, it's a blessing in disguise, is there is no right answer. So it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? So in a bad way, you don't really know if you've answered correctly or not, but in a good way, you have all the creativity to yourself to kind of define the problem and come up with a solution. Estimation question is one of the type of questions which kind of explores your structured way of thinking. So let's try to see in a quick way, how do you answer estimation questions? So it's very easy. There are 3 steps that you can take to answer any estimation questions. Number 1 is memorize the basic facts. And when I say basic facts, these are more like how many number of households are there in USA, or let's say the number of the world population, right? Or what's the average cloud storage size for Google Drive, or maybe average order that a person places on Amazon. So these kind of basic facts kind of help you understand like what your ballpark number should be. And I have a fact sheet of myself. If you want to get access to the fact sheet, then put down your email ID in the comments below, and I can send it out to you personally with all the facts listed below, which can help you in your product management interviews. Second thing is try to understand what the scope of the problem is. And number 3 is break down the scope into multiple components. Now, the last part here is try to estimate each component and then sum it up. That's easy. So I don't know if anyone here, maybe people who come from technical background, they might know of MapReduce, right? Similar to that, basically you have a problem. Based on that problem, you try to identify different components, you split them up, you try to estimate each component, and then you try to sum the estimate and come up with a final number. And that's how you tackle the estimation problem. So let's do a practice problem real quick. So let's say the question that you have been asked is try to guess the revenue of Airbnb. That's a very broad question, right? So in this case, let's try to go broad, right? So let's try to understand how many number of households are there in United States, within 100 million, right? Now let's try to understand how many number of holidays do people get. So maybe people get like 15 days vacation plus 15 days sick leave. So it's more like 30 days. Now, out of the 30 days, how many of them they actually use? Like we don't use all 30 days. Maybe few people do, few people don't. But so let's take on an average that people use 50% of their vacation, which comes up to, let's say, 15 days. So now we have 2 numbers. We have 100 million household, and we have on an average a person taking 15 holidays. So if you multiply 15 into 100, you get somewhere around 1500 million. So the total transactions, or let's say the total transactions that can occur in this industry of bed and breakfast, is somewhere around 1500 million. Now you have to understand or guess maybe what is the market share of Airbnb. So let's say we guess somewhere around 15%. You know Airbnb is a major player, but there are other players as well. So, but it seems like Airbnb is one of the major players. So let's take 15% as the market share of Airbnb. So if you take 15%, it's 15% of 1500 million, which comes up to somewhere around 225 million that belongs to Airbnb. Now that you have the number of transactions that comes under Airbnb's quota, you can try to figure out, okay, on an average, what is the price of a Airbnb per night? You have to also consider, when we say average, you have to consider the maximum and the minimum, right? So I know it can go as low as like 50, 60, but it can go as high as like 200, 250, 300 as well. So, and we're not talking about seasonalities, like remove seasonality, like don't take into consideration, okay, on a Christmas Eve in New York, it's going to cost like 1500. So maybe the average cost, no, like remove all the outliers or seasonality and just try to see what is an average price. So maybe the average price is $150 per day, but that's not all. We also have to consider that some of that amount goes to the Airbnb owner, and only some part of it comes to Airbnb as revenue, right? So out of this $150 per night multiplied by 225 million, let's consider 10% of it is only Airbnb's share. Rest everything goes to the owner or cleaning fee or something else, right? So what we have to do is take 10% of 150 multiplied by 225 million, which comes up to 3.4 billion. So on an average, we feel that the revenue of Airbnb can be 3.4 billion. Now that you've done this, then you have to critique your own solution and try to say, okay, this is the number that I've come up with, but you have to try to make a point that are you overestimating or underestimating? So maybe you can say that there are multiple assumptions in this answer where we have considered $150 per night as the average stay, where I feel that the average stay per night can be a little bit more, maybe 200, 350. So 3.4 billion, what I've come up with, maybe a little bit of lower estimate. So that's how you kind of answer an estimation question. Again, so the interview here is not looking for a right answer, but is looking how you approach the question. And one of the frameworks I would say for estimation is something I came up with called ICEO, which is the I means imagine, C is components, E is estimate those components, and O is over or underestimated. So that's how you can answer any estimation question. So stay tuned for more such updates. Thank you for watching.